Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Holy Happy Hour. I'm your host, Josh. And first of all, thanks to everyone that has liked and subscribed so far. Don't forget to engage with the channel in that way, especially with that subscribe button, hitting a like. Something real easy that you can do that helps us fight, the anti-Catholic algorithm is what I like to say. But it's a great way to share the channel and push it out to other people that might like it. We hope you guys have been enjoying the show so far. We are going to continue our series on the 7 vices and their opposing virtues in these upcoming weeks as we finish up Lent. We got some great guests for that. But for now, I wanted to, before we jump into our guests, is to thank our sponsors. The last video, I forgot to thank our sponsor that sponsors all of our videos, which we're super grateful for, but which is Sacrilegious. And if you guys don't know what they are, check them out. The links are in the description. But they're a great company that's kind of started as just a sock company and is developing into much more than that. But they are creating Catholic conversations with very joyful products. So check it out. You can use promo code HAPPY when you check out. You get 10% off. So check it out there. And I think that's it. So we're going to jump into today's podcast. Today, I have a great guest. We kind of met through a Catholic content creators group chat, if you guys know what Discord is. But I met him there, and then we realized we only live like 40 minutes from each other. But Brayden Cook is my guest today. How's it going, man?
Doing very well, Josh. I am so excited. I think this is the first video I've made with a local. No, actually, I take that back because I did a video with Carlo.
I was gonna say
But
Carlo's on there.
I have not met very many Oklahoma Catholic content creators, so I am very excited to be on with you talking today.
Yeah, I'm so excited too. Yeah, it was such a small world. Sorry, I just remember that message. You're like, yeah, anything to support another local Oklahoma content creator or whatever. And I was like,
Yeah,
wait, where are you from? And it
yeah,
just happened to be that the priest that had been doing spiritual direction for me for so long just moved to your parish, and I thought that was
yeah,
really
exactly.
cool. It's
Yeah.
such a small world. So, well, tell us a little bit about your your story first, then we'll get into your channel after that.
Yeah, so I am a Protestant convert to the Catholic faith. I grew up non-denominational Southern Baptist is what I always say. The reason why is because I kind of got more serious with my Christian faith in a non-denominational setting, but as I kind of got more serious theologically, I began to go the more Southern Baptist, traditional Southern Baptist route. I've interned at a Southern Baptist church as their intern youth pastor. And so I grew up Baptist basically. And the reason I started my channel is basically to document my conversion as well as the conversion of my wife to the Catholic faith, giving some of the reasons why we changed our mind on certain theological topics and things of that nature, but also just to encourage Protestant Catholic dialogue. That's really what I am passionate about on at the Catechumen, which is my YouTube channel. Not only defending the Catholic faith in light of Protestant objections in historical, theological, biblical topics, but even just encouraging that dialogue. I've had multiple Protestant denominations represented on my channel before, looking to have more dialogues in the future. So that's pretty much the gist.
Yeah.
Let me know if I missed anything.
No, that's great. And then you said you're married.
Yes. Yeah.
And do you guys have kids, or are you guys not there yet?
Yes, we do. We have one and one on the way. So I'm son
Nice.
Nicodemus, and we've got one Tobias on the way.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, congrats on that. That's awesome. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
we are like just ahead. Like we have two currently right now, and two in heaven due to miscarriage, but we have two here on earth with us, and they're a handful. We're in that almost 5 and 3, and it's a wild time. And we got one girl and one boy, so it's we get a little bit of everything. It's been kind of wild. So
Best of both worlds.
yeah. So when you said the YouTube channel kind of created to track your journey, have you always been into social media, or like kind of knew you wanted to be a content creator, or was it something that you were like, if I'm gonna do this, maybe I'll become a content creator to track my journey and maybe see where it takes off?
Yeah, so I have a background in video production.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that is, creating ads for, schools, for businesses,
Mm-hmm.
but also filming wedding videos and things like that. And I really got into that when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying like before middle school, I liked creating my own like gaming videos,
Hmm.
playing different things, uploading them to YouTube. So that's kind of how I got into the space of video editing, video
Yeah.
creation, and things like that. So I've always wanted to do some sort of content creation. But I kind of found my niche later on,
Hmm.
having had that experience of editing
Yeah.
thousands of videos for myself, for other
Hmm.
people. And I actually work as a full-time video editor right now. So that's just
Oh,
kind of
sweet.
like what I do for a living. Right. And so
Nice.
um, being able to make these YouTube videos on the side is just kind of like part of what I've always really wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's super cool. And we have kind of similar stories in a lot of different ways. Kind of backing up to your conversion, skipped over that part. I also grew up kind of in this other Baptist church, and then went the non-denominational route as kind of Life Church and Church on the
Mm,
Move. And most of the
right.
time when I mention those places, people probably don't even know what I'm talking about, but I know you do. But yeah, I went there, and I always just kind of felt like it's like there's more. Like there's got to be more to this. I just never sought it out. I was just like, nah, like
Right.
whatever. But I just kind of went through life, and when I finally met my now wife, she invited me to mass, and I was like, okay. And I just happened to meet the
Here we
priest,
go.
and he was like, "That's such a great story, Lindsay. Like that's awesome. Like how you converted. What about you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not Catholic." He goes, "Oh, you need to meet somebody." And he introduced me to Harrison Garlick, who's now Deacon Harrison Garlick at Holy Family, but he was running the
Mm.
RCA program at the time, and he tricked me into coming. He didn't say it was RCA. He just kind of said, you know, we hang out on Tuesdays. It's a great place to hang out. Free food, we'll have drinks, and it's a good place if you want to ask any questions, anything like that. And I ended
Right.
up in RCA class one. I was like, oh, what did I just get myself into? But
Always with the food and the
yeah,
free food and drinks. It's a conduit for
yeah,
conversion every time.
exactly. It's like the younger crowd. Like if you want to get someone involved in youth group, Lindsay always in her story, she's like, I got involved in youth group because they said it'd be pizza and boys. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's so funny. And then when you get older, it's just like
Yeah.
for men especially, it's like beer and food,
Yeah, right.
and they will all
Yeah,
be there.
exactly.
But yeah, so I slowly kind of got into it, but I was really blessed, and later found out we did a whole charisms workshop and stuff, and found out discernment's like my number one charism. And
Mm,
looking back, it's super cool to like have taken that to prayer and kind of looked at it. Because looking back, I always had that thought like in the Baptist church, my parents didn't really like catechises or anything, but I was like, there's got to be more to all this. Like I don't understand what we're talking about or anything. And we left, joined the non-denominational churches that were, I mean, very just feel good churches and stuff. And I was still kind
right.
of like, there's got to be more to all this, but just never sought it out. And now that I'm looking back, I kind of feel like it wasn't just me thinking like there's got to be more to this. I feel like it was like God in my ear, my guardian angel in my ear, whatever, whoever it was, like
Yeah.
in my ear, saying like, "Hey, there's more to this. Like, there's more."
Mm,
And it wasn't until my wife invited me, and then Harrison just did that class so well that he just laid stuff out, and I didn't come in with any objections because I didn't know anything about the Catholic faith. So I kind of slowly learned. But then, kind of the same with your channel and starting your stuff up. I was doing like sports content stuff, like the stuff where the randomizer where it randomized the NBA team, and like I'd build a starting
right.
five, and all of a sudden I was getting like millions of views and stuff like this, and
Oh,
and
wow.
uh, then our son was born, and I was like, man, if I'm going to do content, I want it to be like worthwhile. Like it should be worth my
Mm.
time. Like my wife's prepping dinner right now. It should make sense that I'm not in here talking about sports, but I'm in here like
Yeah.
hopefully doing something that one person will watch and be like, wow, I got something out of that today. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. For sure. And the impact, the contrast between the kind of impact that you might make um, with sports related content, you
Hmm.
might get more views, a wider audience, right?
Yeah.
But then the impact of doing the Happy Holy Hour,
Hmm.
even if it's a less,
Hmm.
large watcher base or viewer base or
Yeah.
whatever, however you say that, the
Hmm.
impact is definitely a lot more profound for
Yeah.
sure. So I
Yeah,
completely
absolutely.
understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and at the end of the day, though, I know one person will for sure benefit from this, and that's me. And I tell people all the time, like, you've had Carlo on your show. I'm like, if you guys want the deepest theological answers, this isn't the place for you. But Catholic Answers is a great place. Go over there.
Mm.
My channel would be more Catholic questions, and I've been Catholic for 6 years now, or coming up on 6 years this Easter, and so I always remind myself, like, okay, I'm still like a baby Catholic. I'm still kind of like learning some of the nuances, like still really diving deeper into stuff, early church fathers,
Yeah.
and a lot of that, like obviously understanding the gist, the overall kind of surface level stuff and then starting to get deeper. But I just know, like, I feel like with every level I go deeper into the faith, it's just like, oh, there's another layer. You're just
Yeah.
like peeling it back. Oh, there's another layer. And I
Yeah.
know that's like a never ending layer. You're just gonna be able to keep pulling it back.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been interesting just to see like it all kind of play out where it's like, see, I told you there's more to this. It's been
It's
beautiful.
insane because you realize how much you don't know. And that's kind
Yeah.
of like, that was kind of the I don't know, the theme behind naming my channel the Catechumen, because I was
Mhm.
never like a cat, like I was baptized a Baptist. So I
Yeah,
wasn't
me
like,
too.
I was a candidate. Me and my wife
Mhm.
were candidates when we were coming into the church in
Mhm.
RCIA. But what the catechumen means in Greek is the one who is learning. And
Mhm.
like the whole, thing behind my channel is like, we want to continue to learn, we want to
Mhm.
continue to grow. And the more that you learn, the more that you realize like there's so much more to learn. And that just like the
Mhm.
depths of the faith and of our theological tradition is so, I don't know, it like you can't exhaust it.
Yeah.
It's like plunging into the deep end of a pool to realize that's just the shallow end, and there's just like a
Yeah.
deeper deep end,
Yeah.
But it sounds like our stories are very similar. I guess in that you went from Southern Baptist to more like non-denominational.
Mhm.
But what prompted me from going from non-denominational to more like, oh, I'm a hardened traditional Southern Baptist cessationist,
Mhm.
is going to ORU.
Yeah.
So I attended ORU for 2 semesters, and I was kind of exposed to like word of faith, charismatic
Mhm.
theology, right?
Yeah.
And that was what prompted me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna take a step back, become like
Mhm.
way more ingrained. But I'm sure you're familiar with
Mhm.
ORU
Yeah.
being where you are.
Yep. Yeah. My younger brother went there, so I don't know what years you were there, but you guys maybe possibly overlap. He may be a little bit before your time, but yeah. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
It's
think it
so.
was. I graduated 2019 from high school, so I started in
Oh yeah, yeah,
2019.
yeah, yeah. So he graduated 2011, so it'd
Okay.
been quite a bit before your time. But yeah, and I found that I feel like this is kind of society. I notice the more I get into my faith and the more I see it, the more I start seeing how we're kind of very what's the word? Well, I guess it's like I said before we started recording. It's like the one I always want to preface. Like I don't want to make this sound terrible, but we're kind of like somewhat cowardly when it comes to evangelization. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people are nervous to reach out. Um, because there are layers and layers. You got to like you can keep pulling back. You can continue learning. I see people. There seems like a lot of people would actually be good at evangelizing. I know some of the older men at Christ the King that'd be great at it, but they hesitate to jump in. But I think some people, if they didn't hesitate, they would see themselves making an impact like whoever it was that got you to be sold on the Southern Baptist Church at ORU. Like, I feel like it doesn't take necessarily all the knowledge. You want to continue to grow in the knowledge and continue to get there. But yeah, I feel like if people would just go for it and just be like, man, I'm in love with the Catholic Church. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to share that love and be okay with saying, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm definitely going to find out now.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
for sure. And our like I was saying earlier, our theological tradition is so deep that practically any question that you can ask or can come up with has been asked and answered before.
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised, studying St. Thomas Aquinas and the Summa, like
Mhm.
how many objections that, let's say, to the Eucharist, to the real
Mhm.
presence of Christ in the Eucharist, that have been made preemptively by St. Thomas Aquinas
Mhm.
hundreds of years before many of the objections, came up in like the radical Protestant
Mhm.
denominations. But yeah, I completely agree. And one of the reasons why we're so dead set on staying in Oklahoma is making that impact. I think
Mhm.
Oklahoma is one of like it's like the capital of Baptist America.
Yeah.
At least
Mhm.
that's how I see it. Going
Yeah,
from
yeah.
ORU to OBU, seeing there's like 40 different Baptist churches in any given town.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just kind of how it seems.
Yeah. And I would say the only thing that I would maybe rank above it would be like the non-denominationals. Like, because
Yeah,
Life Church is huge here. Church on the Move keeps growing like crazy.
yeah.
Victory Church, would that be considered? Is that where, no, Transformation Church, where Michael Todd's
Transformation,
at?
Victory, both of those are
Yeah.
non-denominational.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they're also growing like crazy too. And what I've seen with non-denominational, it seems like, because I mean, especially coming from that route, is it seems to be a denomination, because it is still, even though they call it non-denominational, that is really based on around the fact that it's like Jesus died on the cross for our sins, so we are forgiven, and there's nothing you can do to like ruin that. Like all you have to do is believe in him. And I think that's where I started getting like lost in the non-denominational route, even before I would knew anything. Just as someone who likes to question, like ask questions and stuff like that, I was just very hesitant to believe that that could be it. Like, there's no way that could
Yeah.
be it. That just seems like it really, really does not matter what we do on this earth, and it doesn't matter if we go evangelize. It doesn't matter if we do all this stuff, because if Jesus died on the cross and that's all it is, then we're all good and we're all set.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of truth there, and coming from, and I know I'm friends still with like the people I went to church with in a
Hmm.
non-denominational setting. I'm close with the pastor's family and things like that. So I'm not intending to really like insult them as people,
Yeah.
but what
Hmm.
you find in non-denominational traditions especially is just like this lowest common denominator Christianity, to where it's
Hmm.
like, what are the absolutely necessary doctrines that you need to believe, and then that's
Hmm.
the only thing that we're going to talk about. And
Yeah.
really, I mean, it's like their catechesis is like shallow to non-existent,
Hmm.
because at least from my experience, I don't know if it's the same for you. I mean, I had no knowledge of the creed, no understanding of how to explain what the Trinity is, right? Not saying that we could
Hmm.
completely understand it, but like
Yeah.
the basics of God's nature and of
Hmm.
salvation history, like that's not what's focused upon in
Hmm.
non-denominational Christianity. It really is like, okay, Jesus died for you, you are forgiven, and then like, not to be derogatory, but
Yeah.
it's like kind of like a TED talk. It's like,
Yeah.
all right,
Hmm.
this is how this particular Bible verse
Hmm.
applies to you and me. It's not
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah, and then and I saw that too, and actually here in a second after this comment, we can move into like what Protestants do really well, because I actually have like I actually want to do a whole video on like this is where Protestants are outperforming Catholics. 'Cause
yeah,
feel like there's two specific areas, but I watched a video recently with the Ruslan and his co-host. Ruslan is a great guy. Like I think he's doing great things. I think he's super open. I honestly could see 3 to 5 years down the road him being Catholic. I know there's
yeah,
big hangups for him now, and he says currently he will never be Orthodox or Catholic, but I could see that. His
yeah,
co-host or whoever, on the other hand, you could tell he's very anti-Catholic. He's a lot more, but he said he went to his first mass, and the big thing is one of his big things he focused on was that the music was super old, like hymns, and then the the sermon is what they called it, because they call it there. The sermon was like 10 minutes,
yeah,
and to me, as a
yeah,
previous non-denominational person, I'm like, I can see where you're coming from. Like, I understand if you have no idea what anything else is or what we're all doing.
right,
I definitely understand why you would think like the sermon wasn't even that long, because that's like what Protestant church
yeah,
is. And part of me, and this is how I used to feel, especially going to Life Church, where the pastor that's doing the sermon isn't even at your location. Actually, I heard that he does all the recordings beforehand, so on Sundays there's sometimes he's not even there. Uh,
yeah,
won't take my word for that, because he could be, but he's not even there. So you're watching it on a screen, and it's like an hour long. It's like sometimes feels like I'm coming for Craig, or I'm coming for whoever I forget the church and the move person, but I'm coming for the pastor, and I'm coming for his
yeah,
knowledge and his ability to explain things. Because half the time the church I was going to were really taking some crazy story of, it was always some person they met, and whatever, that they're telling the story of a real life person today, and then they were relating it to the Bible. And I think the more I listen to some of that stuff now, I start to realize that it's like I'm not I'm not seeing the correlations here, actually. But and then going back to what you said, like when I came into kind of the Catholic world and stuff, I remember joining my first Bible study, and they're like, today we're going to be talking about the parable of whatever it was, like sowing the seeds, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? It's like, well, like, the parables, like Jesus taught parables. I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just had no idea. It's like, oh, we're gonna do a whole series on the epistles. And I'm like, what is that? Like, what are you guys talking about? I just had
Right.
absolutely no catechesis at all. And then and to, I guess, preface this, that was more of a comment on my own. Oh, and like I didn't seek it out. I didn't go for it. But yeah, but I see that a lot of the times, I don't know, like it seems like the Protestant church puts the focus on the wrong thing.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of things there. I find that, at least this was my experience, whenever, you might be visiting family out of town or on a trip, vacation somewhere, and you're a non-denominational or Baptist Christian,
Mm-hmm.
which, in my mind, there's a very close connection between those two.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, what you're going to do, you have two options. Number one, you skip because you're on
Mm-hmm.
vacation. Why are you going to go to church on Sunday? If you
Yeah.
have to go out of your way to find the right church, and two is finding the right church. Like, okay, let me find a Baptist or non-denominational church that agrees with me theologically, that I'm going to go online. I'm going to listen to a few sermons or sections of sermons from the pastor, see if he's like a heretic or not, because you have
Mm-hmm.
no way of knowing
Yeah.
unless you go to their belief section on the website and you listen to what he says or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I find that, the places that you visit or the places that you decide to commune at is largely dependent upon the ability and the talent of the pastor to provide a good
Mm-hmm.
message.
Yeah.
That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like what it hinges upon, because 80% of the time you're going to be sitting and listening to this person. So why are you going to listen to someone who is not, giving you messages that agree with your theology, or
Mm-hmm.
is more seeker sensitive than you would like, or is more abrasive or more exclusive than you would like, and then the other half is kind of, or the other part is just kind of like, what music do they do? Oh, are they going to listen to that heretical Bethel or Hillsong? I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do that, So
Yeah.
it gets kind of complicated,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying that, our camp is without some of those complications. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, we have like a lot of infighting
Yeah.
between different, kinds of Catholics, if that's what
Mm-hmm.
you want to call it. But at the end of the day, you find a mass and you go to mass. Like
Yeah.
if the priest isn't the best speaker, you
Mm-hmm.
still receive Christ in the Eucharist, right?
Yeah.
Christ is still present there. You still have
Mm-hmm.
the same liturgy. Unless there's some bizarre things going on in the particular
Mm-hmm.
parish you're going to. But
Yeah.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's like you're still receiving Christ in the Eucharist, whether the priest is in line with what he ought to be saying in accordance with church teaching, whether he's a charismatic preacher or a dull
Mm-hmm.
preacher. It's like you don't have to go through all these different hoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think my parish is a perfect example because we've got Father Elkin, who is just so brilliant, and his homilies are amazing. They used to actually even go over my head, and I'm like, okay, that one I didn't get anything from it. But they really are. They're so thought out. He's just got a brilliant mind, and so he gives these great homilies. They're short and sweet, and he does a great job of just tying all the readings together. But then you got Father Ditzel, who's also great and can do great homilies too. But sometimes he loves, especially daily mass, or actually I said it's only daily mass. He will get to that part and he'll just sit and let us reflect on the readings, and there won't be a homily. And what's cool is there's beauty in both of that. Like there's beauty because the most important part is coming up next, and I found
Yeah.
that beautiful. And then same thing when we went on our honeymoon, we went to mass in Cabo, and we didn't understand the Spanish that was being spoken, but we understood exactly what was being said, which was
Yeah.
which was beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. You can almost follow along, depending on how many masses you've gone to, and like
Hmm.
actively, kind of ingrained in your head, you can almost perceive what the priest is
Hmm.
saying at any particular moment. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's something really profound that we found out
Hmm.
after going to mass only a few times, is
Hmm.
like, oh, the highlight is one, the first highlight, the first peak is the liturgy of the word. When
Hmm.
the priest or deacon lifts up the gospel, we sing the Alleluia, and we stand and they read the gospel. The
Hmm.
highlight's not the homily. That's kind of like
Yeah.
you're going over and we're looking back to what has already been said.
Yeah.
And then the next peak is Christ in the Eucharist. So we've got Christ in the Word and we've got Christ in the Eucharist. Those are the two peaks. And it's not about the priest. It's not about how
Mhm.
charismatic he is, or things like that. Not saying those aren't important or
Mhm.
edifying. Like, obviously, if we have a charismatic, well learned priest who gives a good message, who does things reverently, that's good and well, but
Yeah.
it's not like necessary to have a valid mass or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been cool. I mean, I think this week I went to mass, or I guess it's only Tuesday. It's in the past week I've gone to mass at like 4 or 5 different places, and
Hmm.
it's a little bit of it's the nature of my job. I'm in development, so I'm traveling all over Tulsa. But yeah, it's super nice to be able to just pop in wherever,
Yeah.
and yeah, like you said, it doesn't matter where you're going. If it says Catholic Church on the outside, aside from a few rogue ones in Tulsa, you're safe. You're going to
Right.
go to a great parish no matter what, which is awesome. No, now to jump to just so if we are pushing any buttons for some Protestants, I have some really good Protestant friends too. We have some great Protestant friends that are super faithful. Pray with each other, are in Bible studies, and really pursuing their faith as well. And it's super beautiful. So I always like to preface for anyone listening, whether it's a Catholic listening, it's like, yeah, Protestants, what are you doing? Or if it's Protestants listening, thinking like, "Whoa, wow, they're taking shots at us." I think
Yeah.
that first of all, it's beautiful. We should be very happy if someone is Protestant and really seeking out their faith, because
Yeah.
those are the people that I feel like you can have a conversation with, and you can actually like challenge them to think deeper or think more about something. But yeah, a couple of things that I was having a conversation with someone that it was Catholic and didn't think that as much. I said, I think there's two places that Protestantism or Protestant churches do way better than the Catholic Church. One of them was on actually an episode we mentioned a little bit. The episode I did with Rob Kazmark from Spirit Juice Studios. But I told him, I was like, I'm glad that you're doing all these videos and doing this beautiful just company that's creating beauty within the Catholic Church again, because Protestant churches market and get social media and stuff out so well that they
Yeah.
do make church look enticing. Maybe sometimes taken a little too far, but like I think they do a really good job of like utilizing the tools we have, like social media and stuff. When I start working at the
Yeah.
university parish where I'm at now, they hardly use social media. They posted on it like twice a month, and I was like, man, we're like in the era of social media, and at a university parish, this is the only place that students are going for information. So we need to do that
Yep.
better. And then the second thing was getting people plugged into Bible studies. So I think Protestants, there's a
True.
lot of people out there that are like super interested in being in Bible studies that really want to study the Bible. But when you put a bunch of people in there that either believe one thing or aren't being challenged in something, because I really didn't think anything of John 6 when I read it the first time until someone started asking me questions. Why I
Yeah.
was thinking it was an RCA, and Harrison asked me questions, and for me it was when he said we're going to read it again, and he challenged me to not only listen to the words but pay attention to what everybody's doing. And he's like, he says it, and obviously we talked about, he says it 6 times. He doubles downs on it like so
Yeah.
many times. He even changes the word. What is it, trogo, where it's like to gnaw on my flesh. He makes it graphic, so that he's clear. Like, this is what I mean. And then and what do the people do? It's like they start dispersing. They started leaving. They stopped following him. And it's like he could have turned to his apostles and said, "Hey, like, go get them. They misunderstood what I said." But he doesn't. He turns to them, and I always imagine he turned to them kind of with an attitude a little bit, and it's
Hmm.
just like, "Are you going to leave too?" And they're
Yeah.
like,
Exactly.
"Where would we go?" And I just thought
Yeah.
that was beautiful, and I was like, "Man, that's a great point." So back to kind of the long version of saying what I'm saying is like they do such a good job of getting people into Bible studies, and so I think when people do kind of keep Protestants at a distance or don't really engage them much, it's like, I mean, you're missing out because these people are hungry for Bible studies and getting plugged in and stuff, but they need someone there to like challenge them as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I've ever since, I guess, in college at OBU, my final, or one of the final semesters I was there, I guess it was before I was confirmed. I have a ton of Baptist friends, obviously from
Mhm.
OBU, and they would invite me to Bible studies and stuff, and it would never see they would never cease to like challenge specifically Catholic beliefs, or
Mhm.
even just like non-Reformed, non-Calvinist beliefs, because a lot of
Mhm.
them are, in that tradition, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying there, and that's something that I would really, enjoy helping kind of foster in Oklahoma
Yeah.
specifically, because there's just like, I don't know, 50 Baptists to one, or maybe even like
Mhm.
way more than that, to
Yeah.
one Catholic. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's it's not that we lack the literature,
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
we can, the saints have written abundantly and widely on so many different topics, and
Yeah.
doing like a topical Bible study, or even just like getting into some of the commentaries written by saints
Mhm.
throughout history, especially the early saints. I think that'd be a wonderful way to kind of engage Protestant culture, because
Mhm.
from the Catholic perspective, it's like, okay, our church has existed. The church's existence is Catholic.
Mhm.
She's not only Catholic in expanse, she's Catholic in time. She's
Mhm.
existed throughout every age. And so that means we have thinkers, spiritual, contemplative,
Mhm.
thinkers in every age. And it's
Yeah.
insane how many people we can draw upon. And
Mhm.
I mean, a side note, how many people are their works are completely untranslated, or mostly
Mhm.
untranslated. So that's another, it's like, that's another way we can be engaging the cultures, bringing those into
Mhm.
English and renewing that. But side
Yeah.
point,
Mhm.
there are so many things, like St. Francis de Sales' spiritual works are insanely good,
Mhm.
and they're very simple to understand. And it's crazy that we don't have more
Yeah.
people trying to engage. And if it is like a group of Catholics, it's kind of like a in group. There's no like marketing. And I
Mhm.
really find that, as you were saying earlier, like social media, it's not like it's a good or a bad. It's like it's a tool, just like anything else. Just
Yeah.
like, books and pamphlets and websites and videos and podcasts
Mhm.
and music. It's a tool to declare what God is doing or has done.
Mhm.
And the way that you use it determines if it's good or bad,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so I see it just like how the early fathers took the good from Greek philosophers who were
Mhm.
pagan, who weren't
Yeah.
even Jewish, who were pagan, and took the good and helped explain and preach the
Mhm.
Christian message to their culture in their time, speaking their language.
Yeah.
And I definitely think that we can do a lot. And you've probably seen some Catholic websites, or there's a lot of Ascension Presents, like their
Mhm.
videos look great,
Yeah.
the publishing looks great, their books, they
Mhm.
market good, but that's kind of like, I don't know, an anomaly in the Catholic world.
Yeah.
Most of the time, our websites look kind of like a Word document,
Mhm. Yeah.
and the social media. I'm so bad at this myself. Is just like keeping up on Instagram and Facebook and
Yeah.
Twitter, where everyone is and where
Yeah.
everyone connects, the public forum, and we're
Mhm.
just kind of lagging behind, and
Yeah.
we gotta take these tools and use them for our advantage, because the church has always adapted the good from the culture
Mhm.
to reach the culture.
Yeah.
That's why doctrine can develop over time. We can
Mhm.
use different terminology to explain the substance of what's been handed on to us. And St. Vincent of Lorraine actually says that without doctrinal development,
Mhm.
the doctrines wouldn't stay the same, because we wouldn't be able to communicate it
Yeah.
intelligibly to the or that might be St. John Henry Newman explaining St. Vincent of Lawrence. I
Mm.
digress. To develop in the way that we communicate the doctrine, to
Yeah.
develop doctrine, is for the doctrine to stay the same. And
Mhm.
that is applicable to any form of communication, including social media.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what's great is seeing like in our Discord channel, it's cool seeing like there is a relatively large group of people that are trying to like push this forward and really putting stuff out there, and it's been great. And actually that's one of the big reasons why I've actually taken a break from asking people from around the diocese. Like I've recently had Carlo on the show, and Father Elkin and Father O'Brien, and I've had all these great priests and apologists on the show. but I've taken a break from that to then reach out to you guys that are on this Discord channel to kind of highlight the people that are kind of being active missionary disciples, specifically using social media. It's not going to be for everybody. We're not saying everybody should start a podcast or everybody,
Right.
but everybody posts on social media, and just not being afraid to be like unapologetically Catholic and posting when like you're going to mass, or posting a
Yeah.
little question thing that says, how can I pray for you today, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like just being unapologetically Catholic, because yeah, we just shy away from it. Maybe that was the word I was looking for earlier. Cowardly is probably the word, but shy. Like we get shy with it. And
Yeah.
or maybe people just think they're not meant to do it. I don't know. We get a lot of the times in the parish setting, that either they're too busy, or like I am being a missionary disciple within my family, within the household. I don't know if you've ever come across that, or like how you'd respond to someone who kind of is saying that.
Yeah, it's tough because a lot of the time we have this um, perception that merely living the faith in a way that is visible to people
Mm-hmm.
is. I'm not saying that's insufficient,
Yeah.
but all of my family is Protestant.
Mm-hmm.
Jasmine and I, on both sides of the family, we are the first Catholics that are even
Mm-hmm.
alive, right now.
Yeah.
And so it, living the faith is good, especially when it's like a communal thing and it can be shown to the world at large, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that we should be challenging our Protestant brothers and sisters, because that we do confess that they are our brothers and sisters, and show them specifically. I mean, even in like we were saying earlier with Bible studies and things like that, we can show them that we do have this great love for Jesus Christ, and there is something deeper in the Catholic faith that they're
Mm-hmm.
missing out on.
Yeah.
So Second Vatican Council talks about the elements of sanctity that are in these different ecclesial communities. By
Mm-hmm.
virtue of their baptism, they're somehow connected to Christ in an
Mm-hmm.
imperfect way, but in a real way. And
Mm-hmm.
so the Holy Spirit imparts this sanctity to them. And it's our job to reveal to them that the fullness of this sanctity comes from and is found within the Catholic Church. And so a lot of it's just
Mm-hmm.
showing that their Christian heritage
Mm-hmm.
is inherited from us,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that it finds its fullest expression in the Catholic faith, and it's a coherent expression of the Catholic faith. I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers your question, but that at least that's
Mm-hmm.
what I've been
Yeah.
thinking about a lot recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we like I've experienced it before, and people wanting, like, just shying away from it and not answering the call. One of the folks missionaries actually asked me one time, said, "What do you think like makes like a good disciple?" And I said, "I think there's one thing that makes a really good disciple. It's the best quality you can have is just saying yes." It's like that's the first thing, is just saying yes to doing it, being like just going and doing it. You obviously need to get the knowledge, and you need to prepare yourself before you just go out there and start debating people or something.
Yeah,
But no one's beneath like just starting a relationship with someone and building that trust, or maybe you're not the main person. I know when I very first started, like became Catholic, I was pretty quick to want to bring people to things. And when they asked me questions and stuff, I would always try to just get them set up with Harrison. Like get them set up with the guy who was teaching RCA.
right.
And I was like, "That's a great question. I'm actually still new to all this, but like, I would love to introduce you to one of my friends, and he can answer all those questions. We can actually learn together, because I would actually love to know the answer to that question too." But yeah, but it's been an interesting thing. I just
Whoa.
feel like I've been feeling super convicted lately to be an active disciple. I don't want to get to like Judgment Day after my death and be pointed out like these are all the opportunities you missed, all the chances that like you could have spread the gospel or you could have evangelized, but you didn't. And so I've been really kind of taking that to prayer of not only for myself, but how do I share that with others? So share that with people that are in the Catholic Church. And so that's when my where my kind of focus has been in my own evangelization is like these kind of lukewarm Catholics. It's like, how can we ignite them or light them on fire? Some of them are like ready to go. It's like you just need to light the fuse and they'll
Yeah.
take off. But they just need to like be built up and they like get that confidence built. But it's been an interesting battle of it's like what needs to be conveyed to these people so that they are ready to go and ready to get out there so they can talk to their Protestant family members and Protestant friends and coworkers.
Yeah. And that's really how to increase influence, is getting Catholics who aren't all the way on fire for their faith and
Hmm.
expressing that faith to those around us, to get them to be on fire for the faith. Because
Hmm.
looking back at church history, obviously we see wonderful examples of piety, of
Yeah.
even miraculous uh, signs and wonders from Saint Francis of Assisi.
Hmm.
These figures throughout church history who have had a massive impact.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, we think it's an either or. Either I'm Saint Francis of Assisi, either I'm Saint Dominic, either I'm
Hmm.
Saint Benedict, or I'm nobody and I have no influence.
Hmm.
But the thing that helps the fire spread is when the spark spreads from the spark outwards. And
Yeah.
it's not the job of the spark to light every single candle fuse, right? You
Hmm.
think of
Yeah.
the Easter Vigil liturgy. It starts in one place, and if the priest who held the Paschal candle had to light each and every one of the candles held by the laity, we'd be
Mm.
there a lot longer
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
if the laity would do their job as well and spread the light of Christ. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how I see it. You have God inspires these charismatic figures throughout history, and if the people aren't receptive in receiving the vocation from God through this person, in
Mhm.
spreading the faith as well, then the spark's just going to die out. I mean,
Mhm.
we have a limited period of time on earth, and
Yeah.
there are only so many people who have the kind of press, or I guess the kind of influence that
Mhm.
affects tens and hundreds of thousands of people at once, right?
Yeah.
Only a
Yeah.
few of us have that kind of platform. You can think of, YouTubers and Instagram influencers and things like that.
Mhm.
Only a few of us have that kind of influence. But
Yeah.
what would happen if each and every single one of the people influenced by someone would spread the faith as well? Well, I dare say that their influence would be far wider than the
Yeah.
initial person, right? And
Yeah.
that's what Christ envisions when he sees the kingdom of heaven bearing fruit.
Yeah.
It bears fruit, and then the fruit multiplies itself to be
Mhm.
10 times larger than the initial,
Mhm.
sowing, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, so we've all got to be active. We've all got
Yeah.
to be engaging with our family and friends, especially if they're not Catholic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We were part of a multi-level marketing company for a long time, and it was literally all the same stuff, just for products. But it was real big on like you don't have to go find 20 people to join your front line, like you're the people right underneath you, but you find five that you can really pour into and you can really focus on. And if you can pour into them and teach them the business, teach them how to help others get results and feel good, then you can then teach them how to teach others. And so it was cool. So they're like, if you could teach someone how to get results, and you can do well because you can make money like by selling stuff. If you can teach others how to sell, then you can make some really good money. If you can teach others how to teach others how to sell, then you can really really make money. And so then I translate that into the faith world. It's like, man,
Right.
if I could teach someone how to just follow Christ, it's like that would be great. Like that'd be awesome. But if I could teach that person then how to go and show someone else how to follow Christ, now we're really cooking with gas. But if I could teach that person how to teach the person how to teach someone how to follow Christ, if I said too many, then we're really really just growing like crazy. And the
Yeah.
patron saint of this podcast is the patron saint of joy, Saint Philip Neri, and he
Mm.
said if you can give me 10 detached men, like detached from this worldly pleasures, we will change the world. And I
Mm.
just thought that was always so beautiful, and it's something that is so true, like so true that that I think some people think like when we're talking evangelize is like either I don't have the time or I don't have I'm not that type of person. I'm not the St. Francis Assisi. I'm not the St. Francis Xavier. I'm not going to go out there and
Yeah.
change hundreds of thousands of people's lives. It's like, yeah, but you could change one or you could change five, and
Yeah.
that could turn into a wild fire in the church in 100 years and 500 years. Maybe you're not even alive for it when it happens, but it could really change the world. Or maybe you make that one person and you pour it into one friend and they became on fire and they spread like wildfire, and then that one person you had an impact on becomes a saint. Like, you just
Yeah.
never know. You just never know, like the power of the Holy Spirit, like God's will and everything is so great. We just got to cooperate with it.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, like the prayers of Saint Monica. It's not like she wrote these massive theological treatises, but her son did. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
that influencing even one person can have a
Mm-hmm.
huge ripple effect,
Yeah.
for sure. I
Yeah.
think that's yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's really powerful, and I think
Mm-hmm.
if people would truly grasp that, what if the person I influence in this way is the next?
Mm-hmm.
I think. Uh-oh, can you hear me?
Sorry, you ghosted for just a second. I thought it was just cut out, and then I was like, "Oh no, I can't hear him," but I can
I
now.
think I accidentally like clicked mute on my.
No, you're good.
Anyways, like if by you influencing this one person
Mm-hmm.
instrumentally, you're causing this ripple effect. It's like,
Yeah.
when we say no Mary, no Jesus, no Mary, no Jesus, that the
Mm-hmm.
kind of NO, kind of KNO, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
apart from Mary's consent, I'm not saying God couldn't have, used someone else, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously God's omnipotent or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, because of Mary's assent, according to the words of Saint Irenaeus of Lyon,
Mm-hmm.
her obedience untied the knot of Eve's disobedience and brought
Mm-hmm.
our salvation, the truth, the life, the way into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that might seem like that might have seemed, or even if it did seem like an insignificant thing in the moment. Well, obviously it's like an angel comes to you, so it's not insignificant. You don't truly grasp the significance of it until like way later down the road. It's like, oh, my
Mm-hmm.
son is God incarnate, and he died for the sins of the world, and he's the reason why, the heavens
Mm-hmm.
are open and things like that. It's kind of like that epiphany moment down the line.
Mm-hmm.
This one thing, even though I don't have that influence, might have influenced the person who might have that influence. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I was thinking of too, of like other saints who made such a massive impact, even though they didn't really interact with a whole bunch of people, like Saint Teresa of Lisieux, and
Mm.
how she was so, I mean, at such a young age went and joined the convent, and I mean they had to make special privileges for her to be able to join the convent. But then when she died at such a young age, I heard this story, so people can fact check me if this is wrong. I'm almost positive I've heard this multiple places, but that the sisters or nuns that they asked to do her eulogy for her funeral, they struggled, and they're like, "What's wrong?" And they said, "We don't know what to write for her eulogy. She didn't really do anything."
Hmm.
And I was like,
Wow.
that's wonderful. Like, that's so beautiful, because then obviously now she's like a doctor of the church, and I would assume that maybe they're like, she didn't really do anything, and then they like are cleaning out her room or something. They're like, what is this? And like they find writings of hers, and then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is going to change the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just so many different ways, and that's what I love about it. I mean, baptism, you're given these gifts from God, and it's like, this is going to be gifts for you to help others encounter Jesus. And I just love this thought of like charisms and things that you are just going to be able to help people encounter Jesus. And so many times I think people maybe look at themselves and it's like, well, I don't really have a talent or a skill or something, and I think if they really stopped and they're like, what are you good at, and what do you do? And maybe it's just you're a person who just is blessed to have time, and so you're able to volunteer and help out and around the parish or Catholic charities or whatever it is. But but I would probably argue with someone if someone said I don't have any specific talents or skills that like I could do to help someone encounter Jesus. Like my creative mind could definitely come up with a way that you could use that.
Yeah. No, that's a paradox too. We don't realize it, that the gifts that God gives us aren't meant for us.
Yeah.
They're meant for others.
Mm-hmm.
And if we fail to use the gifts that God has given us for that purpose, the I don't know, we're using them improperly. They're
Mm-hmm.
not meant for us, or at least not primarily for us. It's to benefit and edify, the body of Christ, but also even just to add to and build up with other converts, with other people, the body of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And that, going back to, the purpose of the channel
Mm-hmm.
is, Christ talks about there are sheep that belong to his flock that he hasn't yet gathered into the flock. Now, obviously, during his earthly ministry, that was referring to God-fearing Gentiles,
Mm-hmm.
God-fearing Jews who he was going to draw into the new covenant.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, in this time that we're living in right now, those people who are separated from Christ's church, separated from the flock,
Mm-hmm.
who are on fire for the faith, seeking the truth, and are being drawn to his flock, those are the people Christ desires to bring in to the flock, to embrace the
Mm-hmm.
fullness, to be fed by the shepherd,
Yeah.
through his ministers. And that wouldn't have happened for me were it not for freely available information, content online,
Mm-hmm.
especially YouTube. For
Yeah.
my generation, for Gen Z, that's like where we get our information,
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
YouTube, is
Yeah.
Twitter, is TikTok. And, you know, I became very recently realizing this, just so much more passionate about making sure people don't have to be left wondering.
Yeah.
There's so many
Mm-hmm.
people making great content on YouTube,
Yeah.
but I'm convinced, at least for myself, that there are things that, if left unsaid, will fail to make an impact.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't but speak on YouTube. I can't but help
Mm-hmm.
people answer some questions or continue the dialogue, because if we see it as a kind of an us versus them, and who's going to win this one particular debate, and it's like, oh, it's kind of like a Super Bowl every year, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
better look next time, we can get him
Yeah.
next time. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's not about winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's about making an impact for Christ, to see change lives. If
Yeah.
we go every year just treating it kind of like the Super Bowl, where it's two teams against each other, none of us are open-minded enough to even think of ourselves embracing the other side. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like that contrarian attitude.
Yeah.
Then we're not seeking the truth. We have to
Yeah.
always be open for truth. And if that's what we're expecting from our Protestant brothers and sisters, we ought to also be open to listening to what they have to say and understanding them truly, because if we truly understand what they're saying, and we truly believe what we're preaching is the truth, we shouldn't be scared.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be intimidated, because the truth speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is that God has given motives of credibility to authenticate the church in her ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whatever path it takes to dispose someone to receive the grace of conversion, that's the way he's going to work through us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know. I think I'm just going on a tangent now, but
No, it's
I,
great.
yeah, I think that we can often underestimate the kind of influence we can have on people, and in so doing, we almost, I don't want to call it a sin, but it's kind of like a sin of omission, by not
Mm-hmm.
using the gifts that God has given us to
Mm-hmm.
engage with with the world, but even closer, our Protestant brothers and sisters who haven't been gathered to the flock, but who inwardly, if they know it or not, intuitively yearn to be in the flock of Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I find the most is that when you get into these conversations with Protestants, if you haven't already, and you're nervous to, what you're gonna find is you guys actually both want the same thing. So there's all of a sudden some common ground. It's like you both
Yeah.
want to spend eternity in heaven. You want to unite with Jesus Christ, and there may be just some things that you're disagreeing on, which is okay. It's actually great. It'll
Yeah.
getting in those conversations is just going to sharpen your faith. But I was thinking about when you said about like making sure they're open and talking about that, like even yourself coming in open minded to how this is going to go. There is a guy, and I don't believe he's actually, no, he's not Catholic. I don't know what he is though, but he specifically debates atheists, and so he goes on college
Mm.
campuses, and it's a Dr. Frank Turek, and he's got a book called "I Not Enough Faith to Be an Atheist,"
Yeah.
and he was actually a big one when I first became Catholic. I was watching, I was loving it, like the moral argument for God's existence, the
Yeah.
ontological argument for God's existence, like all this stuff, the cosmological argument. I was like, this is like amazing, like this is so
Yeah.
cool, and he always started every single conversation with the same thing. The person would come up, say, "Hey, I'm an atheist. I don't agree with what you're saying. Could you answer this question?" He goes, "Yes, I can. But first, I want to ask you a question. If Christianity were true, if I was able to prove it to you today, Christianity was true, would you follow Jesus?" And the people that actually would say no,
Yeah.
he wouldn't actually answer the question. He would say,
Wow.
"Then there's no point in me answering the question because it doesn't matter what I say. You've got to come into these things open minded. So for the sake of time, we're limited. We're gonna move on to the next question." And he
Mm.
would do it respectfully, but I mean, if you're not going to be open minded, then there's no point in the
Yeah.
conversation. Like we got to make sure we're there. And then something I was like learned from Carlo Broussard actually. If you ever ask Carlo Broussard, what would you say if a Protestant said this? And he's always like, well, hold on, I need more context. What do
Yeah.
they think about this? What do they think about this? And what he taught me is like there's so much groundwork that needs to be laid, and a lot of the times, if like I mean, Protestant says what a lot of them are going to say is like Catholics worship Mary. And it's like, okay, well, hold on, let's stop. So, what do you mean by worship? So define worship for me, like what it means to
Yeah.
you, and like breaking it down before you're like, no, we don't, and then just like now all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's getting a little heated. I found it with my parents that when my mom specifically, when I first became Catholic, she kind of put up a brick wall and
Mm.
didn't want anything to do with it. Felt kind of like I don't know. I don't know if she felt like we were looking down on her for I don't know what it was really, but slowly over time, just being there and just living my own life and just trying to just keep a good relationship, I've like felt her like start taking bricks down. And my uncle asked me to come pray with him at the hospital and was like, "What's some like prayers I can say? I'm having this surgery. I really don't want to." He was like possibly going to lose from shin down on his leg, and I had just recently went to this talk about the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and I told him I was like, "This would be perfect. It's really easy to remember. You don't even need to know all the fanciness to it. Just like just do this." And I told him a little bit about the history of it and everything. And all of a sudden, my mom like I could see like her brick wall, and she like took one of the bricks out and like poked her eyes out, and she like asked the
Yeah.
questions like, "So what do they think about this?" or whatever the question was. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, hold on a second. Like I need to keep doing what I'm doing." So she's starting to take these bricks down a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and treating that's one big thing is, whenever I first converted and let's say, I think it was Thanksgiving. It might have been one of the times when you get together with all of your family and extended family for,
Mm-hmm.
so Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We go around in a circle, say, okay, let's bless the meal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like kind of looking around, and we're kind of like, okay, we're gonna do the sign of the cross, because they're, you're surrounded by a bunch
Yeah.
of Baptists.
Yeah.
My granddad, when I wore the crucifix in front of him for the first time, he asked if I was changing my religion. So it's like, oh, are you changing your religion? And that opens the door too. But
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time it's like just treating your faith like it's something that you normatively engage in.
Yeah.
Someone
Mm-hmm.
asks you to bless the meal. Are you going to offer up a Hail Mary? Are you going to say, bless us, O Lord, and these gifts?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to live the Catholic faith? Are you going to do the sign of the
Mm-hmm.
cross? Are
Yeah.
you going to treat your faith like it is something that is worth living in front of other people,
Mm-hmm.
even if they think it's weird? you know,
Yeah.
uh, asking at the end of a prayer, asking one of the saints to pray for us. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I often it's kind of like, and I'm guilty of this,
Mm-hmm.
praying in front of or with my Protestant brothers and sisters. It's just kind of like, yeah, I think I might omit. I might omit at the end Saint Francis de Sales, pray for us. Like that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing,
Yeah.
because it might, they might think I'm weird, or I might
Mm-hmm.
make them feel ostracized or whatever.
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying earlier, I think a lot of the times is with the contrarian attitude, when we have a disagreement, we have to realize, Protestants are Christians,
Mm-hmm.
and they're obviously they're Christians insofar as they agree with the Christian faith as explained by the Catholic Church. So obviously they
Hmm.
disagree with us in some things, justification, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. But that doesn't mean we have to disagree with them about everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can agree, oh, that one pope that one time in history was
Mhm.
not the best character. When
Yeah.
you're committed to a life of celibacy, it's probably not good to have a kid and then make him a cardinal. Like
Mm.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We can agree, we can agree on certain ways to phrase things and things like
Hmm.
that. We don't have to completely just like attack everything that comes out of their mouth, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we share the same scriptures. We have a different interpretation of them a lot of the time, but
Hmm.
more times than not, we can agree when Jesus says certain parable. When Jesus says that we ought to feed the poor,
Hmm.
clothe the naked, visit the imprisoned,
Hmm.
that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We don't have to argue with the Protestant brothers and sisters in that respect. And a lot
Yeah.
of that
Hmm.
comes down to knowing our own faith and knowing it well enough to see where they diverge,
Yeah.
hearing them out, and then being able to explain to them, oh, well, this is what we believe, and this is
Hmm.
why we believe it, and this
Yeah.
is how it fits in. We
Yeah.
don't all have to be, theologians, or like, we don't have to
Hmm.
have a higher education in theology to and have the catechism forward and backward memorized. But
Hmm.
I do think it's our duty, especially in this is something I find really refreshing in the Catholic tradition, is the catechesis of children
Hmm.
can't be subbed out. You can't
Yeah.
find a
Hmm.
substitute for that outside of the family.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in Catholic schools,
Hmm.
anything that happens in extracurricular youth groups, study groups, in
Hmm.
church, religious education, that's supposed to accompany living the faith in your home. And something that
Yeah.
I find really encouraging is that the church enables us and equips us to be able to teach the faith to our children. You
Hmm.
know, uh, finding out about something like the Baltimore Catechism was
Hmm.
eye opening. And just like going back through the basics of the faith, Baltimore
Yeah.
Catechism 1. Okay, explain it to me like I'm a kindergartner.
Yeah.
Okay, Baltimore Catechism 2. And then you go to
Mhm.
Baltimore Catechism 3, and it's like, wow, they expected high schoolers to know this, but it's like,
Yeah.
it's it builds on itself over time, and it's beautiful. And so
Yeah.
I think that a lot of that is, especially in America with like Sunday school culture, this was a big thing
Hmm.
in the Baptist world that I found out, is that you know parents will send their kids to Sunday school and just expect them to know everything about Jesus and the Trinity and the
Yeah.
hypostatic union and
Hmm.
things like that, and not and completely absent in the home for the
Hmm.
most part, apart from, oh, I'm going to read the story of David and Goliath to you when you go to sleep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I just kind of like rambled on there, but
No, you're good. And there's actually a study just done. They found 2,600 families that have successfully passed on the faith to their children, and there's a list of 9 things that correlated with every single one of them,
hmm,
and it's pretty cool. I'll shoot it over to you. I have it printed out. I got it at a
that'd be
retreat,
good.
but it was so cool. Like, I mean, obviously there's some of them where it's like pray with your family. It's like, yeah, eat meals
Yeah.
together at dinner time. It's like, yeah, that's awesome. But there were some on there, and I wish I could remember the more weirder ones off the top of my head. But there were some in there where you're like, oh, interesting. Like, I don't know. In
Yeah.
Dr. Edward's Tree, it talks about like some of the stuff, best things you can do so that your kids become or continue with the faith is make sure the mom has private prayer time. Your kids don't
Mm,
even have to see it, but just make sure your wife the mom is
yeah.
getting prayer time, and that is one of the best things you can do to pass on the faith. But yeah, there is an expectation of, and even in the Catholic world, but uh, that I'm going to send my 4-year-old to Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, and she should learn everything she knows for her age. And then when she gets to the high school, I'm going to send her to youth group, and John the Bosque, you better teach her everything she knows. And then when she goes to college, she's like, I'm just going to
She
cross
better
my
not
fingers.
fall away.
Yeah, I'm
She
just going
better
to
not
cross my
skip mass.
fingers. And then people are like later in life, like, I don't know why my kid just fell away. My kid doesn't practice the faith. And I was like, I don't know what
Right.
happened. And it's just like, well, what'd you
Right.
do? What'd you do for your kids? And so, Yeah, that's something we've been really, really big on. And it's hilarious too, because like Adeline, when we go to mass now, she's like, "Oh, purple for preparation." And it's like they like
That's funny.
taught the song so she knows like why the priests are wearing purple. And I'm just like, Adeline, that's great. There may be a
Yeah.
handful of people in this room that don't know that,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's so
it's
awesome.
beautiful.
I
Well,
love that.
awesome. Well, we're kind of coming up to the end of the time. I always like to. There's two more things I want to do just real fast, and one is I always like to give like one last advice, like for anybody that maybe is listening. I would say would shoot the advice to Catholics that are listening that are probably like, you know what, like, I need to do this. This was my kick in the butt. I need to start evangelizing more. But where do I start? Like, what would you say to
Mm.
someone like if they were here?
Someone in my life, Kyle Whittington, obviously
Hmm.
owner of the Discord, he said something really profound the other day to me, and I think it's really applicable here. Is
Hmm.
we need to realize Protestantism, the nature of Protestantism, the question it needs to ask, the fundamental question that it needs to ask,
Hmm.
is why are we not Catholic? Protestantism is defined as in
Hmm.
opposition to the Catholic Church.
Hmm.
And a part of, why we need to understand that is most of the time, Protestants don't even understand that's the question that they need to
Hmm.
answer.
Yeah.
And if they know how to answer it, most of the time it's superficial. And
Hmm.
so a part of engaging and I guess evangelizing, becoming the light to our Protestant brothers and sisters, is asking them why they believe certain things, and,
Hmm.
and, and getting interested in what they believe specifically.
Yeah.
And sorry, earlier we were talking about something Protestants do really good at,
Hmm.
and that's memorizing scripture.
Yeah.
In the Baptist tradition, that was like the thing, that
Yeah.
was the
Hmm.
spiritual thing that you did. You
Hmm.
pray, you memorize scripture, you do Bible sword drills and things like that. You
Hmm.
know the references, and that's something that we can get better at as Catholics.
Yeah.
But be interested in
Hmm.
what their faith is, and be ready to prompt them with questions about their Protestant faith, such that they would become interested in what the Catholic Church teaches. And so we
Hmm.
need to be prepared on that end
Hmm.
to tell them and explain to them the Catholic position on things. And it's
Hmm.
it's that curiosity, that holy curiosity,
Yeah.
that I think is an actual grace from the Lord,
Hmm.
prompting a lot of our Protestant brothers and sisters, of enabling them to know what the Catholic Church truly teaches.
Yeah.
Who was it that said? Was it Fulton Sheen, Venerable Fulton Sheen, who said there's not 100 people in the United States that hates what the Catholic Church is, but there's thousands who hate what they think the Catholic Church is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Hmm.
butchered that so bad, but really, it's a unfamiliarity with what the Catholic Church is, and so
Yeah.
get them to question their own, not to introduce doubts in a devious way, but to
Yeah.
really prompt them
Yeah.
with questions, with the Socratic method, and be
Hmm.
be available to them to
Yeah.
explain the Catholic faith, because a lot of it's just perishing through lack of knowledge.
Yeah, and think about how many of them are like me. Like at the very beginning of this podcast, when I said I was non-denominational, but I was just kind of thinking to myself, "There's got to be more to this." So
Mm,
you might have a friend that is actually very open to Catholicism or really anything, very open because they're just like, there's got to be more, but I don't know what it is. I don't know where to go for it. I don't know what to search for. I don't even know where to start because that was me. And so I think a lot of the times we get nervous because we think we're going to have that one Protestant friend that has every objection and does have everything like ready to go, and this is going to be the hardest thing in the world. Um, but yeah, you never know who you're going to run into. And then I think my last advice is that evangelization comes out of relationships, and so really investing in the person and becoming a friend and like walking with them is crucial. I know we had a guy, he was a Presbyterian pastor on campus at TU. He became Catholic, but it took 3 years or 4 years or something. And our catechist walked with them, and they were super good friends. They got tea every. I say tea because our catechist is from London. They got tea every Thursday morning, and they talked. And he told them his objections, and they kind of had really really nice civil conversations about it, And then finally he was like, I don't have any other hangups. Like, I guess I got to do
Wow.
this thing, and became
Yeah.
Catholic. And it was beautiful. But I mean, that was 3 years he spent with them. So I always tell people, I mean, my whole conversion story, there was no light switch moment of like, oh wow, this is true, I'm going to become Catholic. It was very
Yeah.
slow. It happened over time. I felt like it was more of like building a computer. Like, you got to plug in all the little wires. If someone was
Yeah.
building like I don't know anything about computers, so I'm probably butchering this, but if someone's building like a big old, like the hard drive, whatever it is, and you got to plug in all those little wires. That's how
Yeah.
my conversion was. So it's just it takes time. Be patient with
Yep.
them, meet them where they're at, and welcome disagreements. And then your advice is always my second go to too. Is like that Socratic approach. Just
Right.
questions.
Yeah.
And then I also want to pull this up. Spirit Juice Studios. Rob was so kind. He sent me a bunch of these. They're my absolute favorite. But you mentioned Venerable Fulton Sheen, and I don't know if you've seen these.
Oh,
I get the like,
wow.
prayer cards. Actually, let me show you a bigger one. Mother Angelica. But these things
Oh, wow.
are
That's awesome.
thick. They're like thick cardboard, and they kind of
Wow.
remind me of sports cards. So you flip them over, it's got their biography on the back.
That's awesome.
It's the coolest thing. But you mentioned Venerable Fulton Sheen. I was like, I think I have him in this huge pile right here. I got
Yeah.
Blessed Carlo Acutis. I told him, you're gonna have to
Yeah.
change that one. This, so
Yeah,
can't
I
have
know. You have to
can't have
stretch it
Blessed
out and
anymore.
put
But
Saint here pretty
yeah,
soon,
it was
for sure.
awesome. So
And
okay, so
I completely. Oh, sorry. What do you?
no, no, no,
What
no.
do you
You go ahead. I was gonna move on to the last thing. So you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I completely identify with you, and it's almost like you don't realize the eureka moment that made me Catholic. It's kind of
Yeah,
like the eureka moment is realizing, oh, I am Catholic. I have
yeah,
been,
yeah,
and I don't know
hmm
when it happened, but it happened sometime.
yeah,
That's kind of how it
hmm
was for us too.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'll leave you
you
with that.
you kind of have that apostle moment of like, where else would I go? Like
Mm,
I don't know what it would be at this point. So
yeah,
last thing we'll kind of close out with this is we kind of obviously talked a lot. We're both YouTubers. We know tons of YouTubers. We probably also know some bad ones out there too. People you maybe don't want to go to for Catholic. It could be Catholic person. It could be not Catholic person. We're not going to talk about those people. But who would you say are like maybe 3 to 5? We'll try to name five, but three's okay. Five trust. Actually, I know you can name five. So five trusted YouTube channels. Not. I mean, you obviously got the Holy Happy Hour, the Catechumen. But what are some
right.
five like trusted YouTube channels that a Protestant or a Catholic that wants to learn more should go and subscribe today?
Oh my goodness, this is so tough because YouTube is like my thing. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have the main ones, you have the big ones,
Yeah.
right? So if you like really long, deep theological
hmm
theological podcasts, obviously everyone knows Pints with
Pints
Aquinas,
with
my
Aquinas.
friend.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's like the go-to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. There's longer ones with Catholic Answers Live and things like that. Most
Yeah.
people are familiar. So um, you have Joe Heschmeyer, Shameless
hmm
Popery. Carlo Broussard has his stuff online on YouTube. He goes on
Yeah.
other people's podcasts. You have obviously Trent Horn, but those are the bigger ones. Those are the people
Yeah.
most
hmm
people know about.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to highlight a lot of the people that are in the server that people might
Yeah.
not know about. And I'm so sorry if I forget anyone's names.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to show favoritism. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kyle Whittington, Drew
hmm
the Catholic, Sips with Sarah. Oh my goodness. Just a Catholic. Oh my goodness. I'm like blanking. Project. Logos
hmm
Project.
Yeah. Dom. He
Then
was just on the
there's
show recently.
Yes.
hmm
I think I saw that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
is
I think I
Adrian.
saw that.
hmm
Voice of Reason. Okay,
Yeah.
Alex, he's getting pretty close. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of Protestants uh, that I'm actually thinking might go Catholic soon,
hmm
but I won't
Yeah.
recommend them just yet. I
Yeah. Yeah.
have a list. I know I have a list of more
Yeah.
people, but
Yeah.
those are some pretty solid channels, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah. Yeah. These are great. And Pints with
Oh my
Aquinas.
gosh.
Go
I'm
ahead.
so sorry. Cameron Riker. I don't want to forget
Oh, yeah.
him.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Cameron,
I guess
Cameron
I
has
should have
some
also
great stuff.
listed some too, because Cameron Riker was my most recent guest, so he was on
Right.
last week. But yeah, no, Cameron's been awesome. And when it comes to like trusted resources, when you know of like someone who's got a YouTube channel who is like a catechist, like this is like what he does. He teaches people the
Yeah.
faith. It's like it's gonna be a trusted source. But yeah, his has been really really great. Sips with
Yeah.
Sarah, Adrian was awesome.
Oh,
Logos Project,
you cannot forget patristic pillars. William Albrecht. Cannot
mm-hmm.
forget goodness, Divine Mercy Apologetics.
Yeah.
They do some great patristic stuff. I
Yeah.
love listening to that stuff.
Yeah,
So
I'm gonna try to tag as many of these people in it as I can, so you guys can check the description. If you're watching it now on YouTube, they're in the description below. If I missed one, just comment or something saying what about this person, and I'll find it. But yeah, no, these are all great, and we are. I love that there are so many.
yeah,
It kind of almost makes you want to like lead like do the disclaimer again of like there are tons and tons. Maybe find the one that best suits your style or
yeah.
what you like the most. Don't just sit there and watch hours and hours and hours of all these people every
Watch
single
everyone.
day.
Watch everyone.
Yeah,
Catholic Christian. How to be Christian as well.
yeah. But it could become very. What would the vice be there? What I guess would it be a form of gluttony? I don't know if you're a
I don't know.
sloth,
It'd be
sloth
intemperate.
maybe. But yeah, but whatever. It wouldn't be great. But yeah, great content to be listening to. So those times where you're like, I'm going to turn on Netflix. It's like, hey, you could flip
Yeah.
on Cameron Riker or Sips with Sarah or something. So
Right.
also great to do. I mean, Sips with Sarah. I know Adrian does a lot of lives during the day. So sometimes I'm like working on tax letters and stuff, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
have him in my headphones on his live, and so it's been great.
Right.
Well, obviously, you guys go check out the Catechumen, his YouTube channel. I'm gonna get all your links and stuff, Braden. Is there anywhere
Appreciate it.
else they can find you? Do you have a website, other social media pages, anything?
Well, all my other websites and the stuff has to do with my portfolio for videography. So no,
Gotcha.
not necessarily. You can follow me on Twitter at the Catechumen.
Yeah.
But other than that, I have an Instagram page, Braden Cook,
Awesome.
and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh,
Mostly
cool.
on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you so
Well,
much for having me. This was
yeah.
so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't ever get to like throw this out there for guests, but like you're 40 minutes north, so like we'll have to like actually get together sometime. So
I know.
are you a cigar guy
I
or pipe
totally
or
am.
something? Okay. So
Yes.
one of my most recent guests, Rob Casmark, who we mentioned from Spirit Juice Studios, he was like, "Oh, you're a cigar guy, dude. Send me your address. I'm gonna send you a bunch of stuff." And he sent me a
Oh.
box of them, and a whole
Oh.
bunch of different stuff. So yeah, we'll have to get together sometime soon. But we'll yeah, I'll definitely stay in touch.
Yeah.
Everybody else though, in the meantime, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check on next week. We're building up. We've got a lot of great people that are doing great work for the kingdom. This upcoming month, maybe into May, I haven't got all of them scheduled yet, but some episodes to get excited for. Rachel Kalaki is going to be on soon, talking about lust and pornography from a woman's perspective, which I'm super excited for. We got Father Leo, who is, if you don't know who he was, he's a chef, and he went on what is it called, Iron Chef, and beat Bobby Flay. I think made it to the top 10. It's crazy, and he's got an
Wow.
amazing ministry called Plated Grace, and then leading up to probably the biggest person that's ever been on the show, Jimmy Akins, which I'm super excited for. So it's gonna be a great one. So subscribe, alert bell if you want to be alerted when those great episodes come out, as well as when this episode, stuff like this comes out as well. But you guys have a blessed week and continue to pray for us, and we will continue to pray for you, especially through Lent. And have a beautiful Easter if we don't see you until then. God bless.